What's up, world? It's the Javelin Breakdown, bringing you episode 15 of the Javelin Breakdown show. Got a big one. We're going to be covering the men's and women's Division I competitions from last week. We're also going to touch on a number of professional competitions and a few other odds and ends throws that happened over the last week or so. As always, this episode is brought to you by Spearworks. Rocking my Spearworks Viper Javelin shirt. Really excited this summer to have that come out and bring you some content around that. It's going to be really awesome. A customizable carbon javelin. There's nothing like it. So really exciting. If you haven't already, check out Spearworks website and the Instagram to see the awesome stuff they do. Really all about the javelin community. But let's get into this episode. A lot of ground to cover.
Yeah! Let's go! Come on! Let's go! Yeah!
So last week, Division I Nationals. We'll start with Wednesday night, the men's javelin competition. It was epic. So let's talk about what went down. So coming into this competition, I had a feeling we were going to see some exceptional throwing, and I was right. So in the first flight, Remy Roguette of Mississippi State throws a PR, 73.41, and Jackson Morris of Colorado State throws 73.21. So they have the top two throws from the first flight. We come to the second flight where the big dogs really take off, but hold on to those numbers for Remy and Jackson, 73.41, 73.21. So strong throwing from them from the first flight. In the second flight, in round one, Namdi Prosper of Baylor takes the lead and he goes out to 77.68. John Keenan of Notre Dame throws a really big PR. He goes 75.96. So a strong first round for those two. In the second round, your defending champion, Mark Minichiello, responds, goes into second with 77.27. It's round three where things really heat up, because at this point, Ethan Dabbs doesn't have a throw in the top nine, and he produces 75.21 to move himself on to finals. Sam Hankins, who PR'd on throw number one and throw number two, goes out to 76.18 in round number three. And so just an incredible competition for him. And in that round three, he really put it together, 76.18, so multiple meter PR for him. Namdi Prosper in round three extends his best out to 78.36. And then on top of that, Zuriel Padigo goes out to 79.79. And so that ends up being the winning throw. And so he was your champion in 2021. He was bronze medalist last year and champion again. So two-time champion. We'll talk a little bit more about him later. But that's that third round. Coming into the end of that third round of throws, Cameron Bates is also outside of finals. He takes his third throw. It goes just over 70 meters. We're waiting for the mark to pop up. It doesn't pop up. Still hasn't popped up. And then we see him at the back of the runway again with a different javelin. So I know it's not a replay. And I'm like thinking, oh, this will be a fourth preliminary throw. What's going on? So he takes a fourth throw and it goes further. It's over 74 meters. And so it's a really unfortunate situation. It seems like Cam took his third throw. The officials marked it. And because the competition was pretty efficient, the officials out in the field were used to taking the stick out of the ground after, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds maybe. So when that time passed, they just took the stick out of the ground and walked away from Cam's mark. And there must have been something going on that didn't load the measurement. And so they lost his mark. So once they realized this, they were like, well, he needs to take another throw. That must be the precedent. So Cam takes a fourth throw, and that third throw was just over 70 meters. And remember, I told you to remember those throws from the first flight. So Remy's in first place, coming out of first flight. Remy's in first with 73.41, and Jackson Morris is in second with 73.21. In this moment, when Cam's on the runway, Remy's in eighth, Jackson's in ninth. So when Cam takes his third throw, that's 70, 71 something, it doesn't change any positioning for Remy or Jackson. When he takes a fourth preliminary throw, he passes both of them and it pushes Jackson out of finals. And so, again, like I said, really unfortunate situation. And so I want to be really clear, no ill will towards Cam Bates. It really sucks. You know, he took his third throw, they lost the mark, they gave him a fourth throw. Like, what do you do in that situation? Like, you take the throw, you don't take, like, I don't hold anything against him. I'm really upset that the NCAA didn't have some kind of communication procedure in line for this kind of situation. This should not happen at this meet. It really sucks for Jackson Morris, who produced a throw that I think should have advanced him to the finals. For Remy, he was in eighth, and ultimately he stayed in ninth, so he's a second-team All-American, not a first-team All-American, and so just all around a really sucky situation, and I think the blame rests on the NCAA officiating crew for an honest mistake, but an unacceptable one in my opinion. The stick shouldn't come out of the ground until there's confirmation that there's a mark, otherwise this kind of thing can happen. And on this subject, additionally, you know, you see in this video, Cam's javelin lands, and this was happening all night. Javelin lands, They take the javelin out of the ground, then they're putting the stick in. It's my understanding that you should sort of almost simultaneously put the measuring stick in as you take the javelin out, so that you're putting the stick in the hole the javelin created, and there's no chance for error. I understand the grass at Texas's stadium, I'm sure it was immaculate, and it was very obvious where the javelin was landing, but it just, to me, there were a couple times where the official with the stick was like 2 feet from the hole, and they take the javelin out, and they were sort of like trying to pinpoint it and put it down. It's a whole lot easier to just put the stick in the hole with the javelin and take the javelin out, so that it's just it's a swap, and so there's no way to screw it up. So I thought that was a little odd that happened all night. I did not see that during the women's competition, so maybe something was said about that, but that was happening during the men's comp, and it was really frustrating. And the whole situation with Cam's throw and whatnot is really unfortunate. And so if you maybe heard something but didn't quite know all the details, hopefully that clears things up for you. Just a really, again, sucky situation. And I really respect how Cam put a post out on Instagram about the situation and just said how he feels bad at, the way it was handled. He didn't like how it was handled and wish Jackson could have moved on to finals, and that hopefully moving forward that there's a better solution if this were to happen again, but hopefully it doesn't happen again. So if you're interested in reading that, it's on Cameron Bates' personal Instagram. Sucky situation, but that was the third round there. So let's talk about then what happened in finals. So moving into finals, Zuriel Padigo's in first place with 79.79. You've got Ethan, you've got Mark, you've got Namdi, you've got a bunch of guys capable of going out really far. Is somebody going to pass Zuriel? And so what we see in round 4 and 5, Ethan Dabbs presses over 79 meters, gets within about a foot and change of Zuriel's mark. In round 5, Braden Presser of Navy PRs again after PRing at the East Regional, and he throws 76 on the dot, so he moves just past John Keenan of Notre Dame. But ultimately, Zuriel's mark holds up. So he is your national champion, and he is now a 2-time national champion and a bronze medalist to boot. So an incredible career thus far in his 3 years at LSU. He's won twice, third place, like I said. He's PR'd every time he's gone to nationals. He's basically had a great conference, prelim, and then national meet 3 years in a row, which is really hard to do. And he joins some elite company of people who have been multiple-time national champion in the javelin, most recently Anderson Peters. So that's some great company to be in. And of our finalists, only 3 are graduating. So a lot of guys returning and plenty of guys who are outside of finals who are capable of massive throws. So I think the future of men's javelin at the NCAA is going to continue to be really, really elite. Let's talk about my 3 favorite things about the Spearworks Ghost Javelin. Number 1, the weight. So at 450 grams, it's not as stiff as the 800 or 600 gram javelin. And so with that, I'm able to take more throws in my session to work on my technique. And so that just is a big help on my body to be able to alternate between the 800 or other javelins I have and the Ghost Javelin to, again, just get more reps in a session. Number 2 is that this javelin is very sensitive to technical flaws, and so if you don't hit it through the point, it's not going to fly as far, but when you do, it flies very far. It's very satisfying. So it's a great tool for humbling yourself and being like, hey, you're not really hitting it through the point, so it's not going to go the distance, or you're really hitting it and it'll go really far. So it's a great tool in that capacity. And thirdly, it's customizable. With that customization, there's a number of color options for the javelin, a number of color options for the cord, laser engraving on the point, and so there's a ton of combinations. It's really awesome. So between all that, highly recommend you check out the Ghost Javelin, which is link in the description. Check it out. Now let's talk about the women's competition, which because of a weather delay ended up being under the lights, which I think is really cool. I think a lot of people really enjoy competing under the lights. I haven't gotten to throw under the lights, but I played soccer in high school, and just there's nothing like Friday night lights. That it's pretty cool. So for these women, I think it was a really great atmosphere, and it showed. It was a great competition. So in the first flight, 2 big throwers. Your collegiate leader, obviously, Rayma Otaber of Nebraska, as well as Sophia Rivera of Missouri. Because they were in the bottom 6 from the West prelim, they were in the second flight. So the flight distribution is 6 and 6 from each prelim in flight 2, and then 6 at the bottom, 7 to 12 are in flight 1. So because they were in 7 to 12 from the West prelim, they were in flight 1, despite we all know that they're flight 2 throwers. And so Rayma wasted no time getting things done, goes over 59 meters on her first and second throw, 59.49, holds on for the win. But we'll talk about how it comes under threat throughout the night and touch more on her win a little bit later. Sofia Rivera goes out to 55.92 in the first flight, so a really strong throw for her. It's the second flight where the rest of the elite women really start to pop off, and it's the first round of the second flight that is really exceptional. So 4 of the 9 finalists in the second flight produced their best throw on throw number 1. So Megan Albamonte, 54.46. Madison Wiltrout, 55.04. Federica Botter, 55.79, and Maddie Harris, 57.26. And not their best throws, but still in round 1, Caitlin Fairchild, 57.02, Leona Davidson, 57.70. So 6 massive throws of the 12 women in Flight 2. 6 of the 12, so half of them just go absolutely massive in round 1. And then coming into that moment, they already know, okay, Rayma's gone over 59 twice, and Sophia's gone over 55, nearly 56. So the energy and the atmosphere is just got to be electric. And I think the pressure really ramps up, and it potentially is more difficult to maintain your technical edge because just after that first round, the leaderboard is just at an all-time level of depth. Megan Albamonte is in 9th place with 54.46. That's nearly 180 feet, and she's in 9th place. I mean, this is unprecedented. So this competition from the gun in that second flight is just electric. In round 2 of the second flight, Skylar Ciccolini goes out to 56.03, and then once we move on to the final throws, 4, 5, and 6, we see the A&M women really press after Rayma. So Caitlin PR'd on technically her first throw, and then goes out to 57.97, another PR in round 4, and that pushes Leona to PR in round 5. She goes out to 58.78, so that comes within 2 feet of Rayma's leading throw, but ultimately Rayma wins with that 59-plus meter throw and closes out the competition with a 58.03, so she's your national champion at getting it done. So a massive congratulations to Rayma and Nebraska. Maddie, just an incredible season for the Nebraska women and really Nebraska throws in general. They've had a really, really strong year. So just a massive congratulations to that whole crew and to Rayma for winning a national championship. Behind Rayma, you had Leona Davidson and Caitlin Fairchild, who have been throwing well all season, so no surprise to see them throwing well at this national meet. But the fact that they were able to PR and continue to press through the competition, despite just it being a historic level, is really, really, really impressive. And then Sam PR'd in the men's competition, like I said, so a real credit to their coach and the program for getting things done. It's just really impressive to see that, so a big congratulations to them. And of this women's field, the top 5 are all returning next year. That's my understanding. So it's going to continue to be really deep. So both the men's and the women's competitions, in my opinion, the deepest in history, arguably. It took massive throws just to get 8th place. And then the other cool thing I want to touch on from this women's competition is that your top 6 is just comprised of 3 schools. And so you have a dynamic duo from Nebraska as well as Missouri and Texas A&M. So the fact that these women have been pushing each other all year long, and it culminates in a national performance where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from just 3 schools is really, really impressive. So again, I'll reiterate, just a really awesome competition, a real credit to all these ladies, and really excited to see what the future holds because just the level of throwing is exceptional. So now we're going to recap the women's javelin competition that went down at the Paris Diamond League meet. A very strong field that included Haruka Kitaguchi and Kelsey Lee Barber, who end up going 1-2. So Kitaguchi goes over 65.09 for the win, and a really solid meet for Kelsey, 62.54. And then a lot of those women ended up traveling from Paris to Finland for the Paavo Nurmi Games, which was in Turku, as well as the Courtenay Games, which was in Courtenay. So taking a look at the men's competition there, Jacob Vadlech continues his impressive form and sets a new world-leading throw of 89.51. Oliver Helander represents the Finns and hits a big throw, 87.32. And Julian Weber, who's been in strong form, goes over 85.82. Toni Kusela gets over 82 meters for a season's best, and a number of other throwers get over 80, so it looked like a pretty strong competition. And Curtis Thompson had a really strong series, and we'll talk about him in a second. So a few days after that competition, we had the Courtenay Games. Jacob Vadlech takes the win there, goes over 86 meters, but he did that in round 3, which was after Keshorn Walcott hits a season's best of 85.85 earlier. And so a nice response from Jacob to take the win, but a really strong throw for Keshorn, setting a season's best. Dean Roderick of Japan goes out to 82.95 for a season's best, and then Curtis goes over 79 3 times in this competition as well. So just between the last 2 meets, Curtis has had really strong throws, and he's building that consistency in that high 70 range, nearly touching 80, and so I think he's going to be over 80 soon. And since he threw over 87 last year, I'm sure his expectations are pretty high for this season, and I'm pulling for him to put it together, be able to make a World Championship final and fight for an American medal. It's been since 2007 when Bro Greer won bronze that Americans been on the podium at a World Championship, and we haven't won an Olympic medal in the javelin on the men's side since, I believe, 72. So it's been a long time, and Curtis is certainly the top guy right now in the U.S. who's got the best chance to make that happen. And so he's in strong form and hoping to continue to see that rise this season. At the women's competition in Courtenay, Irina Gilarova of the Czech Republic wins with a season's best of 60.83, and Kelsey follows up her 62.54 from a few days ago with a 60.37 to take second, and your world leader Sigrid Borg hits 58.89 and takes third. Just a few hours ago, this Saturday, the English U20 national meet took place and got some awesome messages. So Michael Allison takes the win with a massive PB, 76.97, and Charlie Evans takes second, gets over 70 meters, also a PB, 70.67. This is also the European qualifying standard for the English team, and so really exciting result for the both of them. And that moves them up on the world list, the U20 world list. So it'll be exciting to see that get posted in a few days, as World Athletics loads results from this weekend. And then finally, closing out the show with throws from the people, got a great story from Coach Reinhardt of the VZ Javelin Club. So if you're not following them on Instagram, I highly recommend. So he shot me a message. Matthew Boyer is an athlete he's been working with 2 years ago. His PR was 43 meters, and he threw 55.58 this past season in college. And he threw a nearly 11-meter PR the other day, and so 66.30. So that's the clip you're seeing right here. And so Coach Reinhardt said, came home from college, they just had a few sessions working on a couple things, and wow, something really clicked there. So really cool to see just a massive personal best. You love to see this kind of thing. So congratulations to Matthew, congratulations to Coach. Recommend again, if you aren't already, check out his page. A lot of really great stuff. As always, really appreciate everybody's support. Probably going to be taking a little bit of a break from weekly shows, but gearing up for World Championships. Certainly be putting out a preview. Looking forward to doing a World Championship Fantasy League. The NCAA one went really well. It was a lot of fun. So excited to be doing that again. As always, really appreciate Spearworks' support of the show and of the Javelin community, guys. So really recommend you check them out. And as always, you know what I say, remember to enjoy the journey.